You know that little Wi-Fi icon? We see it every single day, we depend on it, but what is actually happening behind the scenes? Well, in this explainer, we're gonna pull back the curtain on the invisible tech that literally connects our entire world. I mean, seriously, just take a second to think about that. You're streaming movies, you're on video calls, you're scrolling, and all of that data is just flying through the air on radio waves. How does that even work? How is it not just total chaos? Well, it definitely feels like magic, but it's not. It's actually a really cool story about solving some incredibly tricky engineering problems. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down how it all works, from the radio waves themselves all the way to your router's security. So first things first, why do we even have this stuff? The answer, is pretty simple. We want mobility. We want the freedom to connect from anywhere without being chained to a wall with a cable.
But here's the thing, wireless isn't just one technology. It's actually a whole family of them, and each one is built for a different job. You've got the really small-scale stuff, a wireless personal area network, or WPAN. Think your Bluetooth headphones. Then you've got the absolute biggest scale, the wireless wide area network, or WWAN. That's your 5G, your cellular connection. Wi-Fi sits right in that perfect sweet spot in the middle. It's a wireless local area network, a WLAN, and it's just right for your house or an office building.
Okay, so we've cut the cord, right? But that just brings up a whole new problem. How do we make this wireless connection fast enough and reliable enough for all the stuff we want to do, like streaming 4K movies and online gaming?
The answer is, it just kept getting better. The official technical name for the Wi-Fi standard is 802.11, and those letters you see on the box, like N, AC, or AX, well, those are the different generations. Each new standard was a huge breakthrough, a new clever way to pack more data into the air and get us faster and faster speeds. And one of the biggest leaps forward was a technology called MIMO. This was introduced with 802.11n, and it was a total game changer. The best way to think about it is like this. It's like adding a whole bunch of new lanes to the data highway. By using multiple antennas to send and receive several streams of data all at once, MIMO just blew the doors off the old speed limits. It's a huge reason our Wi-Fi is so fast today.
Now this brings us to something you've probably seen on your own phone or laptop. Ever see two Wi-Fi networks with the same name, but one has 5G at the end? That's because Wi-Fi operates on two main radio frequencies, or bands. The 2.4 gigahertz band reaches farther, but it's super crowded and gets a lot of interference. The 5 gigahertz band is way faster and cleaner, but the signal doesn't travel quite as far. It's this constant trade-off between range and speed.
All right, so we've got speed. But now imagine this. All your devices, your family's devices, your neighbor's devices, all of them are trying to talk into the air at the exact same time. How's that not just complete, utter chaos? Well, it's because there's a set of very polite rules everyone has to follow. First, let's just quickly meet the hardware involved. Every single one of your wireless devices has something called a wireless NIC. That's the radio. Then at home, you have your wireless router. That's kind of the brain of the operation. But the part that actually creates the wireless signal is called the access point, or AP. So how do all these devices stay polite? It's all thanks to a system called CSMA/CA. Now that sounds complicated, but all you really need to remember is the last part, collision avoidance. See, unlike a wired network, it's really hard for wireless devices to know if they're talking over each other. So instead, they have to be polite. Before any device sends data, it first listens. Is the coast clear? If it hears silence, then it speaks. It's this carefully managed conversation to make sure nobody interrupts anybody else. And every single time you tap to join a network, this little three-step dance happens in the background, like in a split second. First, your device discovers what networks are out there. Then it authenticates. That's when it gives the password to prove it's allowed in. And finally, it associates, which is when it makes that official connection. Discover, authenticate, associate. Happens every time. Okay, let's go back to that crowded 2.4 gigahertz band, because this is where things get really messy. Here's the huge problem. Even though there are 11 channels to choose from, they are packed so tightly together that most of them overlap. So if you're on channel 3 and your neighbor's on channel 4, you're interfering with each other. It's a mess. In this whole crowded space, there are only 3 channels, 1, 6, and 11, that are actually far enough apart that they don't step on each other's toes.
And this is why the 5 gigahertz band is just so much better. It was designed from the ground up to fix this problem. It has over 20 channels, and they are all spaced out properly so they don't overlap. Every single channel is its own clean, clear lane on the highway. This is a massive reason why your connection is almost always faster and more stable when you're on that 5 gigahertz network.
Okay, this brings us to our last section, and honestly, it's probably the most important one. All this freedom, all this convenience of our data flying through the air, well, it also creates a huge security risk. So how do we protect ourselves? And I want to be really clear about this. Because your Wi-Fi signal is literally broadcast out into the open, anyone in range with the right tools could potentially listen in. Securing your network isn't just a nice feature to have, it is an absolutely fundamental defense against people trying to steal your data or break into your network.
Let me give you a really common and kind of scary example of why this matters. It's called an evil twin attack. A hacker goes to a coffee shop, let's say, and sets up their own rogue Wi-Fi network and gives it the exact same name, like coffee_shop_Wi-Fi. Your phone, trying to be helpful, might just connect to it automatically. And once it does, everything you do, your passwords, your emails, your credit card numbers, it all flows right through the attacker's laptop. So how do we fight back? With encryption. But, and this is a big but, not all security is created equal. The old standard, WEP, is completely broken. It can be cracked in just a few minutes. WPA was a temporary fix, but it's also outdated. The crucial takeaway here is that WPA2 is the absolute bare minimum you must be using today. And the new standard, WPA3, is even better.
Seriously, this is probably the most important thing you can take away from all this. Go check your router's settings right now. Make sure you are using at least WPA2 with what's called AES encryption. And if you see an option for WPA3, turn it on. Using anything less than WPA2 is like leaving your digital front door wide open for anybody to walk through.
All right, so let's do a super quick recap. Wi-Fi isn't magic, it's just really clever engineering that's always evolving for more speed with things like MIMO. It uses a polite, listen-before-you-talk system to keep all our devices from creating chaos. Your channel choice really matters, especially if you're stuck on that crowded 2.4 gigahertz band. And most importantly, security isn't optional. WPA2 is your baseline, but WPA3 is what you should be aiming for. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. As literally everything in our homes gets connected to Wi-Fi, from our cars to our coffee makers, the number of connections and the potential risks are just going to explode. So the question is, how are we going to need to change our own strategies to keep this incredibly convenient wireless world a safe one? Something to chew on the next time you connect.